cross-chain infrastructure remains one of the most prominent security challenges in the decentralized finance landscape. On May 17, 2026, the Verus Protocol became the latest target of this trend when an attacker successfully drained approximately $11.58 million from its Verus Ethereum bridge. Unlike many traditional cryptocurrency exploits, though, this incident was not caused by stolen private keys, compromised notary signatures, or a direct mathematical break in the underlying cryptography. Instead, the attackers manipulated a flaw in the fundamental business logic of how data is cross-verified between two entirely distinct blockchain environments. For anyone building or participating in Web3, understanding this event is essential. Today, we will break down exactly what Verus Protocol is, trace the step-by-step mechanics of how the validation flaw was exploited, look at the status of the exploiter, and discuss the critical legal and engineering lessons future protocols must take away from this incident. To understand how the exploit occurred, we first need to look at the architecture of Verus Protocol itself. Originally launched in 2018, Verus operates as a decentralized network built on a unique hybrid consensus mechanism that combines proof of work and proof of stake. The project focuses heavily on decentralized identities, user-created currencies, and native cross-chain interoperability. In 2023, the project launched the Verus Ethereum bridge to connect the Verus blockchain directly to the Ethereum mainnet. This bridge acts as a decentralized connection point, allowing assets like Ether, tokenized Bitcoin, and stablecoin like USDC to move back and forth between native Verus chains and the Ethereum mainnet. When working normally, a bridge like this functions by locking assets on the source chain and generating an authenticated cryptographic statement, known as a transfer proof or payload. This proof is then passed to the destination chain. The destination contract reads the proof, confirms that the transaction was properly authorized on the source chain, and releases a matching value of assets from its reserve pool. The entire security model relies on strict assumptions. The destination chain must completely validate what happened on the source chain before releasing any capital. The vulnerability was exploited on Sunday, May 17, 2026, and was publicly flagged by on-chain security platform Block 8 the next morning. The root cause was a severe logical gap between proof verification and value validation. The bridge contract correctly verified that the transfer message was cryptographically genuine, but it failed to check if the financial math inside that message actually made any sense. Here's how the attackers pulled this off. First, they funded a fresh wallet with 1 Ether that was routed through Tornado Cash mixing protocol to obscure its origin. Next, the attacker initiated a microtransactions on the native Verus blockchain worth roughly 200ths of a VRSC token, which is worth less than a single penny. Because this transaction followed all the standard network rules of the native chain, it generates a perfectly valid Merkle proof, and a supermajority of the bridge designated notary sign off on the state root hash. Basically, it agrees to the transfer. However, before submitting the data to Ethereum, the attacker structured the cross-chain event payload to introduce a massive imbalance. While the input on the Verus side was a fraction of a penny, the payout instructions intended for the Ethereum contracts were modified to command a multi-million-dollar release. When the attacker called the submit import functions on the Ethereum smart contract, the contract did exactly as what its expected job is, checking cryptographic signature. It confirmed that the notaries have signed the state root and that the data envelope has not been altered. However, a critical function within the Solidity code named check CCE values contained a massive logical omission. The code never checked if the amount being claimed on Ethereum actually matched the amount locked up in Verus side. Because the cryptographic package itself was authentic, the contract blindly executed the payout instruction, draining its reserve of 1,625 Ether, over 103 tokenized Bitcoin, and $147,000 directly to the attacker. This is like you try to redeem a check, right? And the people who write the check only give you $100, but then you just add a lot of zeros in between them, and the teller doesn't check whether or not the check actually means like 100,000 or 1 million or just $100 worth of checks. Okay? In many decentralized finance exploits, the trail goes completely cold once the asset hits a mixer. However, the aftermath of the Verus incident took a very specific turn. First, to address the immediate question, has the exploiter been caught? Well, no. The real-world identity of the hackers remains completely anonymous. Their on-chain movements are visible, but there has no been physical arrest or public identification of the individual behind the wallet. However, did the exploiter return the funds? Yes, the majority of them. On May 22, 2026, blockchain monitoring data confirmed that the exploiter returned 4,052 Ether, which was approximately $8.5 million back to the Verus team designated wallet address. This return represented exactly 75% of the total product value. The remaining 25%, amounting to roughly 1,350 Ether, was kept by the hackers as a pre-negotiated white hat bounty. This brings us to the question of legal actions. Are there no legal steps being taken against them? In the immediate hour following the hack, the Verus team paused parts of the network and stated they would fully cooperate with law enforcement authorities if the capital was not returned. However, by offering a formal public bounty agreement promising a safe harbor if 75% of the funds were restored, the team entered a conditional settlement. Because the attacker complied with the exact terms of the public bounty deal, active legal pursuits and law enforcement tracking have effectively halted by the project team. While government regulatory agency could technically still investigate on-chain laundering, from the protocol's perspective, the agreement functions as a legal pass, allowing the anonymous developer to walk away with millions in legal bounty rewards. The Verus Bridge incident is a powerful case study for the entire blockchain industry, and it offers a few critical engineering lessons. The first lesson is that code correctness does not mean business logic correctness. The smart contract code on both sides of the Verus Bridge executed perfectly without syntax bugs, memory errors, or cryptographic failures. The disaster occurred because the high-level business rules failed to connect input parameters to output behaviors. Developers must never assume that an authenticated cryptographic proof inherently contains truthful transactional values. Second, cross-chain design must implement strict, independent payload to execution validation loops. The destination contract must have a programmatic mechanism to explicitly double-check and balance the total asset supplies moving across the infrastructure before executing a transfer. Finally, protocol must implement multi-layer defense in that framework, such as automatic circuit breakers that pause outbound token flows the moment an abnormal asset migration is detected. The Verus Ethereum bridge exploit highlights a structural truth in decentralized finance. Technical security requires validating both the identity of the message and the substance of its data. While the team successfully recovered 75% of the capital through a swift bounty negotiation, the event shows how minor logic omission requiring only 10 lines of solitary code to fix can completely expose millions in public reserves. Thank you for watching this educational post-mortem. If you appreciate clean, data-driven financial analysis free of market hype, please consider subscribing to the channel. And let me know your thoughts on white hat bounty settlements and bridge validation logic in the comments below. And I will see you in the next video.